Have you ever watched someone powerful realize, live, on camera, that they've completely lost the room? You're about to. Trump's hand came down on the desk so hard that the water glass beside Kimmel's notepad shuddered, not tipped, not knocked over, just shuddered, a small vibration traveling through the surface like a minor tremor, and Kimmel watched it happen without moving. That moment, that single physical second, is the one that doesn't appear in the 15-second clips. To understand why it happened, you have to go back to the beginning of the segment, to the moment Kimmel walked out holding an index card and a small trophy with a word misspelled on it. The aftermath arrived before the analysis. Within 4 hours of the broadcast, the clip had been divided into 9 independent segments by viewers who didn't wait for the network to package it. Each segment moved at its own speed on its own platform. The shortest was 3 seconds, just Trump's hand, the glass, the shudder, and it accumulated more views than the full segment in its first 12 hours. By morning, the phrase, "Make America Great Again," had been searched more times in a single night than it had been in the 7 years since Kimmel first coined it. By the following afternoon, Trump had posted on Truth Social 6 times, each post longer than the last, each one displayed on news chyrons beside the clip it was responding to, and the juxtaposition was the kind that doesn't require commentary to be devastating. Here is what actually happened inside Studio T1. The studio was running warm that night. Not uncomfortable, but the kind of warm that settles into a room when the audience has been seated longer than usual, and the HVAC system is fighting an uphill battle. The pre-show energy had a particular quality that the production staff would later describe as anticipatory, in a way that was slightly different from the standard Kimmel taping. 2 writers had stayed in the building until 2 a.m. the night before. The graphics team had received 4 separate revision requests for a single package, which was unusual. A segment producer named Rachel Flores, who had worked on the show for 9 years, later said she knew something was different when Kimmel spent 11 minutes in the hair chair, without saying a single word. He was reading something on a clipboard. He read it 3 times. Trump arrived at 9:14 p.m. You could feel him before you could see him. The shift in hallway pressure that happens when someone has decided that their arrival is an event. The walk from the stage door was long and deliberate, not hurried, not casual. The kind of walk that plants each foot with the specific intention of occupying space permanently. He paused at the edge of the stage curtain and adjusted his jacket with both hands, smoothing the lapels twice, a gesture that functioned less as grooming and more as ritual. The way a fighter touches his face before the bell. He moved to the guest chair and spread wide into it, jacket open, arms on the armrests, a man who has decided that every piece of furniture he sits in belongs to him. His eyes found Kimmel's across the desk. He held there for a moment. Then he smiled. "Jimmy, finally, I've been turning down this show for 2 years, just so you know. The ratings, and I checked the ratings, I know what they are. The ratings need this. You needed this more than I did." He gestured at the audience. "These are my people, by the way. I recognize them. They didn't come for you." Kimmel didn't respond. He sat with one hand resting on the desk surface and the index card face down near his elbow. He let Trump continue. Trump described the show as a legacy property that had outlasted its relevance. He said late-night television had become a singular organism sustained entirely by anti-Trump content, and that without that content, the format would collapse into itself like a star that had run out of fuel. He named 3 other hosts by name and assessed each of them in descending order of what he called their actual numbers. He said Kimmel was the most tolerable of the group, which he offered as a genuine compliment. He said the problem with Kimmel was that he was smart enough to know that the material was cheap, but too comfortable with the ratings to stop using it. He called it a creative mortgage, living off borrowed outrage because original ideas were harder. He said he didn't blame him. He said he'd make the same calculation in his position. A man in the 4th row tilted his head slightly. A woman near the center aisle pressed her lips together. Kimmel was completely silent. He didn't adjust his posture. He didn't reach for his water. He looked at Trump the way you look at something you have already fully understood and are now simply confirming. Trump moved through a relevance attack that was unusually precise. He cited a specific sweeps period, a specific demographic, a specific competitor's performance in the same time slot. He said he had people who tracked this. He said the data told a story that Kimmel's production meetings were probably not eager to discuss. He ended with a dismissal that arrived wrapped in generosity. "But you've had a nice run. Genuinely. Not everyone gets a nice run." The silence stretched 4 full seconds. Then Kimmel picked up the index card. He didn't make a show of it. He just picked it up and held it at reading distance, and his voice when he spoke had dropped a register. Not louder, not sharper, but lower. The way a room gets quieter when the background noise stops, rather than when someone shouts over it. "You've been talking about data," he said. "So let's look at some data." He turned the index card over. "You spelled honored as H-O-N-E-R-E-D on an official statement. A beat. That's not a typo, that's a commitment." The audience did not laugh. Several of them shifted, not away, but forward. A teenager in the front row, part of a school group that had been in the standby line since 3 p.m., leaned sideways toward the person next to her without looking away from the stage. Trump said it was a typing error. Kimmel said absolutely and reached under the desk. He produced a laminated placard, the kind used in school spelling bees, and set it on the desk facing Trump. The word on the placard was politicians. Below it, in smaller text, "Your spelling, Truth Social, March 14th. Then he produced another one. Unprecedented. Then another. Hamburgers. He didn't stack them dramatically. He placed them one at a time with even spacing, as though he was laying tiles, and each one landed in the room with a weight disproportionate to its size. By the fourth placard, a woman in the 6th row had covered her mouth, not in horror, but in the specific expression of someone watching something that is simultaneously funny and deeply clarifying, the two emotions arriving at the same time and producing neither laughter nor solemnity, but something in between. Trump said they were fabricated. Kimmel pressed a button, and the LED screen behind the desk activated. The screen showed screenshots. Each screenshot displayed the original Truth Social post, timestamp, engagement numbers, the verified checkmark, with the misspelled word circled in a thin red line. 11 posts, 11 circled words. The dates ran from 2022 to 6 weeks prior. Trump said social media posts were informal. Kimmel said he understood that and moved the first placard to the side. He said he wanted to show Trump something else. He reached under the desk and produced a folder. You could feel the room change. The folder was thin, not the kind of folder that holds documentation so much as the kind that holds a single prepared item. Kimmel opened it slowly, and what he removed was a single sheet of paper printed on official letterhead. He said it was a copy of a written presidential statement, not a social media post, not a press conference, not an informal communication. A formal written statement issued through the official communications office, dated 14 months prior. He read the statement aloud. It contained 4 sentences. 3 of them contained spelling errors. 1 of them contained the same error. Scaffolding spelled as scaffoldig, twice in the same paragraph. "That's not autocorrect," Kimmel said. "That's scaffolding built wrong from the foundation." Trump's jaw tightened. His right hand moved to the armrest and gripped it. Kimmel continued. He said he had prepared something for the occasion. He turned toward the stage-left curtain and nodded once. A door opened. A young woman walked onto the stage. 11 years old, according to Kimmel's introduction, the reigning California state spelling champion for her age division. She was accompanied by a teacher who positioned her at a small standing lectern placed 6 feet from Trump's chair. She stood with her hands clasped in front of her and looked at Trump with the direct, unintimidated gaze of someone who has competed in rooms full of adults before and is not particularly impressed by them. Kimmel said he wanted to run a brief segment. He called it the Presidential Spelling Invitational. He said the rules were simple. He would read a word from Trump's own official communications, and both Trump and the champion would spell it aloud. Trump said he wasn't doing a spelling bee on television. "I understand," Kimmel said. "You can just listen." He read the first word from the index card. Counsel. The girl spelled it correctly in 1.4 seconds, COUNSEL, without a pause, without hesitation, in the flat declarative rhythm of someone for whom this question has no difficulty whatsoever. The audience reacted with a sound that was not quite a laugh and not quite a gasp, but something compressed in the chest, a recognition arriving faster than it could be processed. Kimmel said, "The president spelled it COUNCIL on a legal brief." He read the second word. The girl spelled it. Kimmel revealed Trump's version. He read the third word. She spelled it. Kimmel revealed Trump's version. By the 5th word, Trump's breathing had changed. It was visible, the chest rising slightly faster, the exhale slightly too controlled, the kind of controlled breathing that indicates effort rather than calm. His posture had contracted. The wide spread with which he had claimed the chair had reduced itself, the jacket no longer open, one shoulder angled slightly away from the girl and the lectern and the screen. Kimmel set down the index card. He looked at Trump for a moment without speaking. Then he said, "Every one of those words came from official communications, press releases, legal filings, formal statements issued from your office. The girl is 11 years old, and she hasn't missed one." He paused. "You keep saying this is fake, so prove it, right now, in front of everyone." Trump's voice came up sharp and fast. He said the segment was designed to humiliate, which was the only tool Kimmel had ever had. He He said the words were cherry-picked from millions of communications. He said nobody cared about spelling. They cared about results. He said the people in this room and the people watching at home who actually supported him didn't need him to pass a spelling test to know he was the most effective president of their lifetime. His voice was louder than it had been. The pitch had risen, barely but perceptibly. A production assistant in the left wing later described the monitor showing Trump's face in close-up and said the vein at his left temple was visible in a way it had not been 12 minutes earlier. Trump pointed at the screen. He said the screenshots were manipulated. He said the letterhead on the formal statement was fabricated. He said Kimmel had built an entire segment on dishonest premises and called it journalism. Kimmel waited until the sentence finished. Then he said, "This wasn't built on premises. This was built on your own words. That's not my scaffolding. It's yours, and it's been visible for years." The thematic anchor word landed in the room with a different weight than it had carried 30 seconds before. Several audience members looked at each other. The California state spelling champion stood at her lectern and did not move. Trump opened his mouth. A woman in the second row pressed her fingertips together in her lap. The floor director standing in the wing dropped his headset half an inch from his ear without removing it. The camera on Trump's position held. Nothing came out. The silence was 8 seconds. In television time, 8 seconds is not silence. It is an event. It occupied the studio the way a smell occupies a room, filling it evenly, touching every surface, making itself known to everyone present simultaneously. Kimmel did not rescue it. He let it stand. He let the screen stand. He let the placard stand. He let the girl stand at her lectern in the flat fluorescent certainty of someone who knows how to spell every word in the English language. By midnight, the 8-second silence had its own dedicated clip, its own dedicated hashtag, its own dedicated comment thread on 17 platforms. The clip had been viewed 14 million times before 6 a.m. Headline writers who had covered Trump for a decade described the silence using words they had apparently been saving for an occasion that was sufficiently specific. The spelling champion was interviewed by 2 morning shows. She described the experience as basically like a regional competition, but the other person didn't study. Trump posted at 1:08 a.m., 2:33 a.m., and 4:17 a.m. Each post was longer than the last. Each post used the word rigged more times than the one before it. Each post was screenshotted within 40 seconds and displayed beside the clip. And in the clips, Kimmel was holding a placard. And on the placard was a word spelled wrong. And beneath it, in smaller text, was the source. And the source was Trump. The news cycle moved fast and then stopped moving and just stayed. Anchors said the word scaffolding in segments and then let the word sit for a full beat before continuing, because there was something in the way Kimmel had used it that resisted being moved past too quickly. People who had never previously engaged with spelling or language or late-night television found themselves watching the clip and then watching it again, trying to locate the exact moment when the energy in the room changed direction. Most of them settled on the same moment. The girl spelling counsel in 1.4 seconds, and the silence that followed Kimmel's next sentence. From that point forward, the room had belonged to someone other than the man who had entered it claiming ownership. Nobody booed, nobody cheered, they just watched. The way you watch something you already knew was true finally become visible. If this changed how you see power, hit subscribe. If it didn't, watch it again. The details you missed the first time are the ones that matter most. Notifications on. Next one drops soon.